What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. And well, in this video I do want to go over something I feel like a lot of players might also be wondering. So is the Crew Motorfest going to hurt Need for Speed's future? Well, to be honest, I would probably say in some ways that's obviously going to be a yes, and in some ways it's most likely going to be a no. So I would probably say, guys, I did have a great time on Unbound for the most part, but I really do have to admit though, jumping on the Motorfest beta when it was active on July 21st, and even playing like the insider program before, I do believe I had like 55 hours combined, so I really did jump right into that. I was having such a great time though, guys. It was even hard for me to jump back onto the crew too, so I really do think a lot of players are most likely going to feel the exact same way. But one thing I thought about though, I was like, you know what? Let's go jump back onto Need for Speed Unbound and see how this game actually is. Which, by the way, guys, I do want to do like a slight disclaimer here. Like, I'm not hating on Need for Speed in any way. In fact, I would love this franchise to improve. And I've also loved these games for such an insanely long time. So, jumping on Unbound definitely does hurt a bit, especially when seeing how the old Need for Speed games were. And I do think most players are probably aiming for something like Need for Speed Most Wanted 2005 coming back again, and or some type of game that was designed similarly to that. So who knows, maybe in the future that might honestly be a thing. For me, guys, one of my favorite Need for Speed games was, I do know a lot of players didn't like it, Most Wanted 2012. I really did love the overall gameplay of it. Now who knows, maybe the new Need for Speed game coming out in the next few years might actually resemble something like '05 once again, but I really do think, guys, when you jump onto one of these games and actually see some of the flaws, and or notice how some of these games really do actually need to be improved, and or most likely have like 6 and or like 8 plus more months in development, would probably make them better. Now one thing I also do want to talk about is, after jumping on Unbound once again, guys, which I have to admit, it has been a minute since I have played this game again, because to be honest, I had no reason to jump back onto it, which I would say a lot of players most likely feel the exact same way. But I really do think, guys, Need for Speed Unbound is going to be a lot different than Motorfest in many ways. Obviously in Unbound you do have a different driving like handling model, and or you also have police and or like a different map design, so the games really are going to be a lot different. Plus, like, the overall driving atmosphere is going to be a different experience as well. So both games do have like their own vision for like gameplay and stuff like that, so I do respect how games are different. We obviously do need that, especially in a racing game genre, but one of the biggest differences with Need for Speed and or like Motorfest is probably the elephant in the room. That is going to be the police being in one game and or not the other. So obviously the Crew 2 had like some type of like police vehicles, and of course those cars will indeed be in Motorfest as well, but do keep in mind they're obviously not going to be legitimate police cars like you would see something like this in Unbound. But I would probably say, guys, having the police in Unbound is obviously going to be the biggest difference, and of course how like the overall gameplay and or like driving physics are. I would say every racing game has to be different in some way to actually give you like a different gameplay experience. But I have to admit one thing, I would probably say a lot of players are not the biggest fan of how the police are in Unbound either. So for example, guys, when you would complete like a tiny race, you would always get some type of heat level onto what you already have. So let's say you start off in the daytime with 0. A lot of the events go from like a half a heat level all the way to like almost 2.5 to 3 levels for that matter. So no matter what you guys do, you're always going to have a heat level. And to be honest, I can't understand how this is going to make the game a better time, and obviously a lot more intense having a bunch of police chasing you. But I have to admit it though, guys, at a certain point the police really do honestly get insanely annoying in Unbound. Like, I can barely drive across the map without running into 15 different police cars, and if you're not driving like a level S vehicle at least, because if you are running something like a B leveled vehicle around the map, let's say you are on heat level 5, you are never going to be able to get away from those cops, guys. Like, you might be able to with some insane driving, but to be honest, I would say it's going to be more of an annoyance than anything else. So, like, why actually try to drive around the map when there's legitimately cops on every corner? I would probably say some of the overall, like, design aspects are there, just most likely not executed correctly to actually make the overall experience better. Now, this actually goes right into my next point, though. So, yes, Motorfest is going to have a lot of different things you can do. I would probably say, guys, that's going to be one of the biggest things that most likely hurt Need for Speed in general. For example, once you do beat the campaign, you obviously go into multiplayer, and you then race around against your friends and or like players for that matter. But the biggest thing is, though, what is actually keeping you in the game and or bringing you back if you actually do want to jump back onto it? Like, is there going to be events and or different things you can do? In Unbound, there's obviously not going to be much of anything you actually can do besides doing races, which I would say is going to hurt like the overall like longevity of that player base. But if we look at something like Motorfest, for example, we're also going to see like the summits coming back from the Crew 2, and or like that new grand type of race where there's like over 40 something players in an event, and you also get like that new Royale type of race as well. So I do think it's going to be pretty awesome. But the biggest thing to look at with this though, guys, the fact that it will bring you back into the game. I would probably say Unbound honestly fails at this pretty hard, because once you beat it, you're almost like, well, what do I do now? Like, do I go back on the single player and or farm out some money for cars, or do I go on to online and do tons of races to get some more cars? But and the other thing too though, guys, is driving around with your friends in a racing game is obviously a great experience. I'm not saying like you have to have a reason to jump onto one of these games, because for many, driving around in like a racing game is obviously like the biggest highlight, but having different events you can do like a summit and or like the grand race for like different rewards definitely does add on to like the immersion, and you can also have a great time by doing these set events with your friends. So it does basically give you a lot more rewards and or a lot of things you can go after. Like, for example, there's always going to be different cars in like the summits in the Crew Motorfest, and there's always going to be like different rewards and or stuff to go after. So if something like this was an Unbound, it would most likely add on to like the overall effect to keep a player active. And who knows, guys, maybe the next Need for Speed might do this, but to be honest, I would probably say the Crew Motorfest is most likely going to hurt Need for Speed in so many different ways. Not only is the map going to be improved in Motorfest compared to the Crew 2, we're also going to have a lot of new races and or playlist type of events to do, which by the way, those were so dang fun. Plus there's going to be rewards and or like 20 challenges per each playlist for that matter, so it really is going to keep a player active for a long time. And then of course you also have these summits, plus you have to level each vehicle class up. And by the way, luckily you don't have to have one vehicle that's maxed out to like S+, like you did in Unbound, so every vehicle is going to be in their own class, which I really do think Unbound actually did that, but they could have did it better, similar to something like Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2010, and or something like Need for Speed 2012, so who knows, guys, maybe they might do something like this in the future, and maybe they may actually take notes from Motorfest to make their game improved. It really is insane because Motorfest felt way better than the Crew 2, like the overall atmosphere, the whole map design, and or there's most likely going to be map expansions in this game as well, so there really is going to be so many different things they can do, and like the overall driving physics are 100% better, plus you obviously have that really nice like Hawaiian atmosphere, so I really do think a lot of players really are going to love this game. And also, guys, one of the biggest other highlights, the new car list in Motorfest is going to be absolutely insane. Like, we have the new BMW M4, we have a Liberty Walk Supra, we also may have different cars show up in the game in the future, so I really do think it's going to be insane what we actually have. There's also going to be a bunch of different Koenigsegg's, a lot of different Bugattis, and all kinds of insane cars like boats and or planes for that matter, so there really is going to be a lot of different things you can do. Who knows, because the next Need for Speed game might have a lot of new features and or just be 10 times better than Unbound, but of course that's all going to be up in the air. But one thing I have to admit though, even with all of the changes happening in the new Need for Speed game, if they do, the biggest thing, guys, is are they going to be able to get close to the car list that's in the Crew Motorfest? I would honestly say probably not. Like, the cars in that game alone are most likely going to make it that much better to a lot of car enthusiasts. And the biggest thing though is, are the police going to keep people on Need for Speed? I really would probably say probably not, but I would like to know your thoughts on this in the comments below. Do you guys think the Crew Motorfest is going to hurt Need for Speed's future? I really do like racing games a lot, guys, so I would probably say I would not just count Need for Speed out just yet. Although I am insanely excited for Motorfest, like everything about this game looks incredible, and I do want to mention guys, I will be covering all of Motorfest basically in every way. I'm also planning on going over the future Need for Speed games when they do come out, so definitely stay tuned for those. I really do love racing games, and I would probably say a lot of players most likely want all of them to succeed, and that way it's going to be like a healthy competition type of thing. But once again guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more insight.